Welcome to New Vision's Echo Tip, episode number 14. Hello, I'm David Ward. I'm an assistive technology instructor who works for New Vision, located here in the Roanoke Valley of Southwest Virginia. We're going to be zeroing in on a real brief tip today, but very powerful tip, and that is going to be featuring podcasts. What are podcasts, and how do they work on the Amazon Echo? All right, well, podcasts are pretty simple to explain or define. You may think of a radio program, maybe that comes on NPR, like All Things Considered, or the Daily News, Hourly News Summary. Or you may think of a favorite radio show you listen to, like People's Pharmacy or other things. I have students that really enjoy some of those. The Click and Clack Brothers, Car Talk. So these are a number of radio programs, and we typically think of them coming on at very specific times, 10 a.m., 5 p.m., things like that. And I have to be beside my radio at that particular time to hear that episode. So that presents challenges, and that's where podcasts come in and kind of solve that. The idea is to kind of create on-demand radio, kind of like Netflix's on-demand TV programming. And so podcasts solve that problem. You get to listen to the Click and Clack Brothers when you want to listen to them, or you get to listen to People's Pharmacy when you want to listen to them. And so that's a very powerful thing. And now some local schools, churches, different places that have audio content like that will even put out their content in podcast form. So it's a way of syndicating information out. And because of the cost of computers and microphones and different things like that, there's a variety of podcasts on almost every imaginable subject. There's a podcast dealing with probably like basket weaving, movie critics. There's a podcast that deal with technology, Macintosh computers, enterprise technology, just all sorts of crazy things you can imagine, and even blindness-specific podcasts that deal with technology, which is kind of my genre of expertise, working with the disabled. All right, so now that we've kind of defined podcast, how does your Echo do it? Well, out of the box, your Amazon Echo can pull podcast from a database called TuneIn, and the TuneIn database. Now, if you ever need to go on a computer or somewhere else, you can go to TuneIn, that's TuneIn.com, and search for podcast, maybe a particular flavor like carpentry or whatever you're interested in. You can do that. So let me just demonstrate a few podcasts and how the Echo can play those. Now, I'm going to need you to, once again, it's that moment in our episode where I need you to press the microphone button on the top of your Echo. And that way, when I'm doing the demonstrations here in our studio, your Amazon Echo at home isn't responding, and in other words, probably boogering up the tutorial so that you can't hear what I'm trying to demonstrate. So if you'll do that, find the microphone button. It has a picture of a silhouetted microphone on it with a slash through it. Press that, and you'll hear a thump sound, something like this. Okay, and it will turn the ring red on the top of the unit. That tells you that her ears are off and she's not listening for that wake word that you usually say. Okay, so just take a moment, do that. Okay, now we're ready to go. Let's try and play a podcast. All right, so Alexa, play People's Pharmacy podcast.
Getting the latest episode of People's Pharmacy. Here it is from TuneIn.
Hi, I'm Joe Graydon.
I'm Terry Graydon. Welcome to this podcast of the People's Pharmacy, where we bring you the stories behind the health headlines.
This podcast is brought to you by
Alexa,
Industries.
Stop. All right, so very interesting. Now, unlike previous episodes where we've done facts and figures, podcasts are audio content, and so you will need to stop it either verbally or if you have a remote control for your Amazon Echo. At some point, you'll need to stop it. Now, you might also ask, okay, what episode am I listening to there? Well, podcasts are designed in such a way as part of a syndication mechanism where you're always going to default to the most current episode. So, for example, if they release new episodes every Sunday, well, this would have been this past Sunday's episode. And if you listen to the entire episode, it will go immediately to the very next episode that was the newest. So go back to the previous Sunday, and so on and so forth. And so that's a neat way to kind of go through material. Now, if you feel like you need to listen to it in a particular order, you can always tell your Echo to skip, and or use the remote control to skip to a previous episode. All right, so just really handy. Now I'm going to show you another podcast. This one is independently made in the United Kingdom by a podcaster. He focuses in on Amazon Echo, and so this might be a really neat podcast for you to listen to in addition to ours. That gives you some instructional information. We've been focusing mostly on the basics in our podcast, but Robin Christopherson, hopefully I said that right, he actually deals with a lot of the skills, which we've talked a little bit about, and we're going to talk about in future episodes, which deal with more advanced information you can pull from third parties or games and things like that. So let me just show you how you would play Robin's podcast. Alexa, play Dot to Dot podcast.
Getting the latest episode of Dot to Dot. Here it is from TuneIn.
Dot to Dot. Now connected.
Hello, it's Robin here. Now today we are looking at another cricket skill. We looked
Alexa,
at one not too long.
Stop. Okay, so you got to hear Robin talk a little bit about a cricket skill, so it definitely gives you the European feel. But anyway, it's a pretty neat podcast if you want to find out some more about special skills or tools you can set up on your Echo. All right, so basically we've covered how it works. You go from newest to oldest. There's a variety of podcasts. Almost any of the NPR public radio content is available in podcast form. You simply ask for the name of your show, followed by podcast, and there you go. You're off and to the races. All right, in our next episode, we're going to talk about on-demand radio. So in other words, you could listen to live radio like public radio here in the Roanoke Valley on WVTF. So how do you listen to live radio? That will be our next Amazon Echo tip. So once again, it's time to turn your microphone back on your Amazon Echo so she'll hear you when you call her and start practicing maybe some of the things we've discussed in these episodes. I'm David Ward, signing off for New Vision. Thank you for listening. This episode is brought to you by New Vision in connection with a grant from the Foundation for the Roanoke Valley and with the kind use of WVTF studios. For the newest information and content about what New Vision is doing, please see the website newvision, ROA, the first three letters of Roanoke, .org. That's .org. New Vision is a nonprofit that provides information services and assistive technology training to the visually impaired living in Southwest Virginia. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision.